Station Herman, do you copy? This is High Command. Do you copy? They were the Grigori, the Watchers, 200 elite angels sent to Earth not to fight, but to observe, to guide humanity in the early days. They built a fortress on the peak of Mount Herman, a place where the snow never melts and the air is thin enough to touch the stars. For 3 centuries, the reports were regular. Then, the tone changed. The logs became erratic. They spoke of warmth. They spoke of desire. They spoke of experiments with human DNA. And then, silence. God does not tolerate silence. When a lighthouse goes dark, you don't send an army to fix it. You send a scout. You send someone fast, silent, and sharp enough to cut through the lies. You send Jophiel. Jophiel has arrived, but the Watchers are not gone. They have changed.
Mount Herman is not a place for the living. At this altitude, the wind screams like a dying animal, carrying ice shards that can strip flesh from bone. The fortress of the Watchers loomed out of the blizzard like the carcass of a giant beast, its black basalt walls coated in 1,000 years of rime ice. There were no lights in the windows, no smoke from the chimneys. The massive obsidian gates, carved with protective Enochian runes, stood slightly ajar, a broken jaw hanging open in the wind. Archangel Jophiel did not walk, she glided. Her armor was not the heavy gold plate of Michael or the burning crimson of Camiel. It was a masterpiece of stealth engineering, sleek, form-fitting plates of mercury silver that shifted color to match the environment. A chameleon cloak made of woven light draped over her shoulders, rendering her nearly invisible in the snowstorm. She wore a cowl over her head, and her face was hidden behind a tactical visor that scanned the electromagnetic spectrum. She stepped through the gates. The crunch of snow under her boots sounded like gunshots in the oppressive silence. Inside the courtyard, the scene was wrong. It wasn't a battlefield. It was a ghost town. Tables were overturned. Weapons, spears of light, and shields of crystal were scattered across the frozen ground, not broken, but dropped, as if their owners had simply let go of them in the middle of a thought. Jophiel knelt to inspect a stain on the snow. It wasn't red. It was a thick, black, oily substance. It hissed slightly, melting the ice beneath it. She touched it with her gloved finger. Her visor analyzed the compound. Divine ichor, corrupted. Biological contaminants detected. Angels do not bleed black, she whispered to herself. Her voice was calm, but her grip tightened on her twin daggers. She moved deeper into the complex. The architecture was magnificent yet disturbing. The Watchers had carved statues of themselves, but something had defaced them. The stone faces had been clawed off. The wings on the statues had been broken. It was an act of self-hatred. The wind died down as she entered the great hall. Here, the silence was heavy, physical. The air smelled of ozone, old copper, and something sweet, like rotting fruit. Jophiel stopped. Her senses, sharp enough to hear a heartbeat from a mile away, picked up a sound. Drip, drip, drip. It was coming from the ceiling. She looked up. High above in the shadows of the vaulted rafters, something was hanging. It was a cocoon, a massive translucent sack made of what looked like hardened resin and feathers. Inside, a silhouette was curled up in a fetal position. Jophiel zoomed in with her visor. The silhouette had wings, but the wings were wrong. They were joined to the arms like a bat, and they were pulsing. The angel inside was not sleeping, it was gestating. "Command," Jophiel spoke into her calms, her voice devoid of fear, but heavy with realization. "I have found the garrison. They didn't leave. They are molting."
Jophiel bypassed the Great Hall, sticking to the shadows. She needed answers before she engaged. She needed the flight logs. She needed to know how beings of pure light could descend into biological madness. She located the archives, a library of stone tablets and scrolls. The room was a wreck. Scrolls were torn apart, their holy script smeared with the same black ichor. In the center of the room sat the desk of Samyaza, the commander of the Watchers. A journal lay open. The handwriting started elegant and precise, typical of a high-ranking angel. But as the pages turned, the script became jagged, frantic, almost intelligible. Jophiel scanned the text. Day 400. The humans, they are fascinating. Their fragility is beautiful. Their warmth is addictive. Why were we made of cold light? Why were we denied the sensation of touch? Day 750. We have done it. We have taken wives. The union is indescribable, but there are side effects. My light is dimming. I feel a hunger, not for knowledge, but for sustenance. Day 1000. The children are born. The Nephilim, giants, monsters. They eat everything. And we are changing too. My wings itch. The feathers are falling out. Scales are growing underneath. The pain is exquisite. We are becoming closer to the earth. We are becoming flesh. Jophiel closed the book. The air around her grew colder. This was not just rebellion. This was a biological plague. The Watchers had tried to mix the DNA of heaven with the DNA of earth, creating a cancer that consumed both. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the corridor she had just left. A wet slapping sound, like wet meat hitting stone. Slap, drag, slap, drag. Jophiel extinguished her light daggers instantly, plunging the room into darkness. She pressed herself against the cold stone wall, holding her breath. Her camouflage cloak engaged, blending her perfectly with the gray basalt. Through the doorway, a creature entered. It stood 8 feet tall. It wore the tattered remnants of angelic armor, gold plating that was now rusted and fused into its skin. It had wings, but they were no longer majestic instruments of flight. They were leathery, vestigial limbs with hooks, dragging on the floor. Its head twitched unnaturally. Jophiel recognized the armor markings. This was Archangel, once a teacher of signs and geometry. Now his face was a ruin. His jaw had unhinged, splitting down the middle like a predator's maw. He was sniffing the air. He could smell the purity of Jophiel. He could smell the uncorrupted light. To him, she wasn't an enemy. She was food. "Sister," the creature hissed. The voice was like gravel grinding together. "You smell clean." Jophiel didn't move. Her heartbeat remained steady at 40 beats per minute. She was analyzing the threat. Target, mutated seraphim class. Armor integrity, compromised. Weakness, thermal core located in the chest. The creature lunged at the desk, smashing it to splinters. It knew she was there. "Come out," Archangel gurgled, his split jaw dripping black saliva. "Let us show you the joy of hunger. Let us share the gift of flesh." Jophiel's eyes narrowed behind her visor. Stealth was no longer an option. She reactivated her daggers. 2 blades of blinding white plasma ignited in the dark. "Your gift is rejected." The archives room was too small for wings. It was a cage match. Archangel roared, a sound that was half scream, half laugh. He didn't move like an angel anymore. He moved like a spider. He scuttled across the walls, his vestigial wing hooks digging into the stone, defying gravity. He launched himself at Jophiel, swinging a rusted morning star that was fused to his wrist bone. Jophiel didn't block. You don't block a falling building. She slid. Her silver armor greased the floor as she dropped to her knees, sliding underneath Arachel's leap. As she passed underneath him, she slashed upward. Her dual plasma daggers hummed with the sound of 1,000 hornets. Zzzt. 2 lines of white fire cut across Arachiel's belly. Black blood sprayed out, sizzling on Jophiel's helmet visor. The blood was acidic. Smoke rose from her shoulder plates. Fast, Arachiel giggled, landing on the ceiling and rotating his head 180 degrees. But meat is stronger than light. He opened his split jaw and vomited a stream of corrosive bile. Jophiel rolled, kicking a heavy stone table into the path of the acid. The stone dissolved instantly into gray sludge. She needed to end this, now. The noise was waking the others. The walls of the fortress were beginning to vibrate with the scratching of 100 claws. Jophiel activated her flashbang protocols. Her armor flared with blinding strobe lights, disorienting the creature's sensitive, mutated eyes. Arachiel shrieked, clawing at his face. Opportunity. Jophiel leaped off the wall, using her anti-gravity boots to propel herself like a missile. She landed on Arachiel's back. She didn't stab, she drilled. She drove both daggers into the base of his neck, where the spinal cord met the skull. Crack, hiss. She twisted the blades, pouring holy energy directly into his nervous system. Arachiel stiffened, his body convulsing as the light burned him from the inside out. He fell from the ceiling, crashing onto the stone floor with a wet thud. He twitched once, then dissolved into a pile of ash and black tar. Jophiel stood up, panting. Her armor was stained. Her energy levels were at 80%. The silence returned, but it was thinner now. Scritch, scratch. From the dark corridor, dozens of glowing red eyes appeared. The hive was awake. Objective updated, Jophiel whispered, reloading her daggers. Extermination is no longer viable. Initiate protocol, self-destruct.
Jophiel fought her way down, not up. The core was in the basement. She cut through waves of lesser mutants, watchers who had become little more than ghouls. She moved like a dancer in a slaughterhouse, a blur of silver and white fire. Finally, she kicked open the blast doors to the central reactor room. It wasn't a reactor anymore. It was a womb. The massive geothermal machinery that once powered the outpost was covered in pulsating organic matter. Veins the size of tree trunks pumped glowing green fluid through the room. And in the center, fused to the main turbine, was Samyaza. The commander of the Watchers was unrecognizable. He was massive, 20 feet tall, his body a grotesque tapestry of muscle, machinery, and bone. He had 12 wings, but they were made of human skin stretched over metal frames. His face was beautiful, horrifyingly perfect, embedded in the center of a swollen, fleshy chest. He was plugged into the mountain. He was the mountain. "Welcome, little spark," Samyaza's voice boomed, vibrating the floor plates. "You have come to witness the union." Jophiel stopped. The sheer scale of the corruption was overwhelming. "You broke the first law. You mixed the clay with the fire." "We improved it," Samyaza countered, gesturing with a massive clawed hand. Around him, hundreds of translucent sacks hung from the ceiling. Inside were the Nephilim, hybrids, giants, abominations waiting to be born. "Look at them, Jophiel. Angels are stagnant, perfect, unchanging, boring statues. But humans change, humans evolve. By mixing with them, we have found the secret to true immortality. We can feel pain, we can feel hunger, we are alive." "You are cancer," Jophiel replied, stepping toward the control console, "and I am the chemotherapy." Samyaza laughed. "You think you can destroy us? We are legion. If you kill me, the mountain falls. If the mountain falls, the spores release. We will cover the earth in our image." Jophiel looked at the console. The reactor was unstable. If she overloaded it, it wouldn't just explode. It would create a localized star, a holy nova. It would burn the spores, the bodies, the sins, everything, including her. A calculated risk, Jophiel muttered. She punched in the override code 777 Alpha Omega. Warning, the AI chimed. Core overload in 60 seconds. Semyaza screamed, "No, you fool! You kill us all!"
59, 58. The room turned red. Sirens wailed, mixing with Semyaza's roar of despair. The creature ripped himself from the machinery, tearing massive arteries of green fluid, trying to reach Jophiel. "Die with us!" Semyaza bellowed, swinging a fist the size of a car. Jophiel didn't stay to debate. She engaged her thrusters to maximum overdrive. She shot up the ventilation shaft just as Semyaza's fist crushed the console where she had stood. 40, 39. She was flying blind. The shaft was collapsing. Debris, ice, and screaming mutants fell past her. She dodged jagged metal, banking left, banking right, spinning through the chaos. Below her, the green glow of the reactor was turning a blinding, angry white. The heat was rising. Her armor warning screamed, thermal critical, shield failure imminent. She burst out of the ventilation shaft into the courtyard. The blizzard was still raging, but the ground was shaking so hard the snow was jumping into the air. 10, 9. "Launch," Jophiel commanded. Her wings snapped open, not physical wings, but hard light energy projectors. She launched herself into the storm, breaking the sound barrier. Behind her, the fortress of Mount Hermon groaned. The stone cracked. 3, 2, 1, 0, 0. Boom! It wasn't an explosion, it was an erasure. A sphere of pure, holy fire expanded from the mountain peak. It vaporized the stone. It incinerated the flesh. It turned the snow into steam instantly. The shockwave hit Jophiel, tumbling her through the air like a leaf in a hurricane. She stabilized, spinning in midair, and looked back. Where the fortress had stood, there was only a crater of molten glass glowing in the night. The Watchers were gone. The Nephilim were ash. The secret was buried. Jophiel floated in the silence, her silver armor scorched black. She topped her comms. "Command, this is Jophiel. Target neutralized. The corruption is contained." She paused, looking at the scar on the mountain. "But send Michael. Send everyone. Because if there was one nest, there might be others." She turned and flew away, a lone silver star fading into the dark sky.